morning, everyone, and good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today, the final day of the SyteLine Summit Week. An exciting week that we've gone through, seeing all of the new offerings for SyteLine 9, the integration, or I should say the user interface with Ion and Mingle, shop floor and quality, and yesterday a great presentation by Mr. Automotive himself Mr. SyteLine himself with SyteLine BI with Jerry Walden. So today we're going to a little bit of a bonus day here, and is product configuration management. We're joined today by John Shuck. John is the product manager for the product configuration management solution. You just take a look and say, what is really product configuration management? And it's really that ability to configure products, and it just doesn't have to be configuring products, for example, as we would know typical configurators of the past with, back office pulling the levers and turning the knobs, but a very consumer-driven product configurator. So picture, for example, if you're a manufacturer of things like fire trucks, to where the fire captain, the chief, can actually configure his fleet of rigs exactly the way he wants in a very pictorial environment, and giving them really the ability to really visualize what's going on for the future. And what we're seeing is this is extremely important, because products that we never ever would have thought that are configurable, consumers and our customers want those now to be configuring. They want them to do exactly what they expect. So we're going to see configuration in many products that we've never seen in the past. And so this is really an area that if you embrace and take a look at it and get into and buy into the mindset here of product configuration, you're going to be able to push your products ahead of your competition by far, and especially with this configurator, because it is more of that front-end dealer configurator. It doesn't take a group of people in the back office just to do the work. This really empowers your customers and your consumers of the product to take advantage of your product, maximizing your share of their wallet as you go forward and carry it through. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to John. John, take it away. And by the way, we'll hold all the questions until the end, if you would. So keep those questions towards the end here. But John, go ahead and take it away.
Great. Thank you, Warren. That's a fantastic introduction. Looking forward to the presentation here today. And I'll just start with keep your attention here just for a couple minutes as we go through a few slides. We're going to quickly jump into a demonstration. There's absolutely no better way to really see and understand what the value of product configuration management can mean to your business and actually seeing it in action. So that's what we're really going to focus on. So I'm going to go just through a couple of slides to set context, then we'll get into the demo. The first slide here that I'll cover is just the introduction to product configuration management, to understand that it is a suite of products. It's comprised of the 5 products you see there on the right, and we're going to go and take a pretty deep dive into those as we go through our demonstration, so I won't belabor the point now to explain what they are, because we're actually going to take a look at them. But what the left-hand side of the screen shows us is that product configuration management is for manufacturers and distributors of configured products and services. And it really reaches a wide range of an audience, if you will, within a business. It's not just focused on manufacturing, where traditionally we might think about product configuration, driving shop floor orders, the BOMs and the routes. That's where we usually think about product configuration, but really what the product configuration management suite brings to you as a customer is the ability to really reach into and drive a lot of value in the context of the marketing, the engineering, sales, manufacturing, as well as the delivery of configured products and services. So with that, we'll take a look here quickly at the product configurator UI, and just a representative example here. It's a very easy configuration for products and services, whether it's a system of products being put together, as we see on the left. This happens to be a transmission line with some standard controls to make option selections, but also visual in the context of being able to actually see the options versus just the text associated with them. And then on the right-hand side, to really be able to visualize the assembly, if you will, or the final product that is being put together, so that there can be confidence in what is being ordered. The next part here that we'll take a look at is that the product configurator is, again, very easy to use in the context of building models. So on the right-hand side, we can see the modeling environment, to where the configuration model is created to actually provide the presentation to the user. In this case, this happens to be a door, and this is the example that we'll use in our demonstration today. So an enterprise-wide solution that provides for a very easy-to-use configuration modeling environment to very quickly bring new products or new product offerings into the marketplace, which is going to help gain market share for yourself. Lastly, before we get into our demonstration, we'll look at how does this work together. And this is a little bit of a limited view, and we're going to build on this as we go. But we look at the product configurator working with our design automation suite, whether it's 2D design or 3D design, integrate it with SyteLine to drive the order information, bills of materials, routings, 2D drawings, and even 3D models. So in the context of ERP and in SyteLine, being able to leverage that configuration experience to provide for very accurate and complete orders into manufacturing. So let's just take a quick look at what that might actually, what that experience would be like. So what we'll do here is we'll take a look at our SyteLine environment, and go ahead and we'll just create a new order, and we're going to select coordinated enterprises for our order today. So I'll save my order header here, and we'll go into the line. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll take a look at the door. It's a really good example of a variety of different features of the configurator. So as we save our line, you'll see that we have now our configure button enabled. And in launching the configurator, we're going to launch into a very straightforward and very clean user experience. This is, for an experienced user, someone who really understands the product, is able to just quickly make the selections, and just has very quick visibility as well as accessibility to the different options that they may want to be quoting or providing the ordering information for their customer. Certainly being able to change certain dimensions and attributes related to that configuration. And as we finish this up, right, very quick experience, pretty simple product, just to illustrate a few of the capabilities here that we're going to generate then a job as a result of that configuration. So we'll see that the job comes up, but we're also generating the price. So the as configured price, generating the job, and with that job, of course, we'll take a look then at the job information. So here we can see that it was able to generate a list of operations, and within those operations, a list of material. This happens to be the various pieces of wood that need to be cut to assemble that door or to manufacture that door, and then some additional items such as glue. So we can see that we have a shop order here associated with that customer order. And as we take a look, we have also the ability to look at some additional details related to that configuration. So list the configuration values. This is going to provide, again, a configuration driven within the context of the model. The model designer is able to decide how much or how little to display. So this is information that will then carry through to some of the standard reports within SyteLine. Then additionally, we can take a look at some of the additionally linked information here. So we'll go up here and we'll take a look at some of these notes. And so we see here we've got some notes, again, associated with that configuration, completely driven through the configuration model. And not only that, but we also have here an ability to be able to see the drawing that was generated as part of that configuration. So while I didn't necessarily show it during configuration, I had the option to look at it, but I just didn't happen to show it. Just wanted to show you quickly going through the process. But here's the as-is drawing as rendered, that we have the height of 76 inches by 33 inches. And so now there's a very visual representation of what is actually going to be manufactured, so that if there might happen to have been any mistakes that were made, that there's some confirmation and try to catch those early. Well, rather than having to look at things and catch them early in the process, what if we could actually see them as we're doing that configuration? So let's just go back here and say, I forgot to add hinges. Right? We needed to put hinges on that door, and the drawing showed that, well, there were no hinges. So we'll go back and we'll go ahead and reconfigure that line. So as we go through the reconfiguration, then it's going to pull up the exact same thing that I had configured previously. And I'll just come over here and we'll take a look at the image. So I could have done that before, just didn't happen to do it. Again, just trying to look at the pricing very quickly. But if I need to, I can certainly look at then the drawing, switch between that, and now I select hinges. So as I select hinges, you can see that they've been placed now on the screen. And I also have some additional details that I might want to add for this particular configuration. But now, again, I have the hinges, and I can visually validate that I have that. That's our 2D design automation. The really nice thing about this 2D design automation is it's leveraging a CAD model. And this CAD model is being driven by the options that are being selected during configuration. The benefit of that is that there are not thousands or hundreds of thousands of different drawings that need to be created and maintained and then retrieved based upon configuration values. Again, the CAD model is being driven through the configurator, so there's one model that through the configuration options that are being associated with it, it's able to then dynamically generate and adjust the model and output that drawing as configured. So as I finish this configuration, then we'll come back in, and again we'll be providing them the job, and it's going to then now represent, as we take a look at the job details, the hinges that were added to that door. So we can see that the integration with the manufacturing side, and we look at this, the assembly, that we'll see then we have our hinges now associated with this particular job. And then if we were to look at the notes associated with this job, we can take a look at that image. And it's going to be the same image that we saw during configuration. So again, just another very excellent way to be able to validate that what we're configuring is what we're actually expecting to get by a visual confirmation of that configuration. So that's I think a pretty, standard, if you will, a typical view of a product configurator working in the context of ERP. Certainly being able to select the different features associated with the product, being able to drive pricing, being able to drive manufacturing. I think one of the things that makes our product configuration management suite a little bit unique is we have some additional capabilities. One of those being the 2D design automation, which allows you to see an as-configured drawing of the product that is being ordered. But let me ask a question, somewhat of a rhetorical question. It's kind of hard to ask as we do a webinar, but what if we could take that same capability and provide it to your customers? So rather than your customer having to call in an order, having to fax in an order sheet, having to email in a list of the things it is that they want to order and have somebody transcribe that into the ERP system, what if we could extend that same configuration experience, but one that's much more visually engaging to your customers, allow them to be able to self-service whenever they need to, wherever they need to do that. So web-based quoting and ordering, whether they're going to look for quoting or ordering in their office, maybe it's at home at night and they're trying to finish up some work, maybe it's while they're on the road and they're going to use their tablet or mobile device. The way that we provide for that is through the Infor sales portal, multi-channel quoting and ordering for your customers as well as for your dealers and for your sales reps. One that again is accessible via the internet through the standard browsers that all of us tend to use, to be able to leverage that same configuration model, the same model that's going to drive the correct pricing, that's going to drive the correct manufacturing, and be able to allow your customer to have full confidence in what they are quoting and ultimately ordering is going to be valid, it's going to be correct, it's going to show up when they expect it to. So that's what the Infor sales portal is going to provide. Additionally, as we look at, say, a dealer-distributor type of a channel, to allow your customers to sell your products more effectively by giving them a tool to allow them to output a very professional, a very, very tailored-looking proposal document to the end consumer, one that's representing your product visually, one that's also representing your product with additional marketing collateral, spec sheets, could be warranty and terms and conditions and warranty sheets, to pull all this information together, whether it's the as-configured product information or in addition leveraging the marketing collateral that may be located on various network devices or calling to other systems that may be generating output documentation, to be able to pull all that together in one document, very complete, and provide that to the end user. So when we look at then the sales portal in the context of product configuration and our automation suite, working together with SyteLine, we really provide for a very complete solution, one that not only services the needs of the internal user, but also the needs of your customer. So again, rather than talk more about it, let's go ahead and actually see this work. So this is the login page for the sales portal. And what we're seeing here is we're seeing this being used in the Chrome browser. So whether it's Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, or even Safari, if there's an internet connection and you have a browser, then you have the ability to access the sales portal. So again, whether it's on your computer at the office, your tablet at home, or your phone on the road, as long as you have an internet connection and you have that browser, you're able to log in. So we'll go ahead and we're going to log in now, and I'm logging in as John Shook as myself. And just to set the stage so we know how this is going to flow through, I'm just going to take a look at the company profile and point out that I am a user for Coordinated Enterprises. Okay? So when I was in SyteLine as representing, say, the CSR, I was creating an order for Coordinated Enterprises. Well, now I've just logged into Sales Portal as a user of Coordinated Enterprises so that I can get a quote from the manufacturer to ultimately quote my end customer, the consumer of the product. So that sets the stage, but as we look at the application, you'll see that it's arranged in a very easy-to-use, very intuitive format to be able to see some of the standard capabilities and functionality of the application. Very easy to get to those bits of capabilities, but also showing some additional capabilities to extend the application to the way in which you might need it to really service the needs of your customer base. One example of that might be a link to what we would call an executive dashboard, where it's leveraging the data in the system to be able to generate these types of charts and graphs to be able to provide some value to your customers. So this is an example of an extension that could be made to the application. Certainly you could have links to your company website, maybe to a training video, but the point here is that it doesn't have to just end with what the Sales Portal provides as standard capabilities. It's very easy to add additional applications to the Sales Portal. So with that, let's just go ahead and take a look at the quoting process. So as a dealer of the manufacturer, I'm going to use the system to generate quotes. I've already done that, and these happen to be the list of quotes that I've created over time, not only myself, but other folks within my organization, being Coordinated Enterprises, for various customers. So this is a pretty straightforward, easy-to-use search grid. Certainly you would do the things you expect it to. I can click on the column headings. It will sort ascending, descending for the purpose of being able to very quickly find the information that I need to work with. I can also begin to type, and it will start to filter the list down. So this is a very common grid that we use across all the different entities that are supported within the Sales Portal. But if I want to create a quote very quickly, I can do that. I'll just click New Quote from right here in the upper right-hand corner, and we'll get into this quoting process. So again, very straightforward, very easy. This is my customer that I'm selecting, and we'll go ahead and select Wilson Industries as that end consumer. And then now I'm going to select the product. So similar to how we saw the grid work within the context of the quote page, I also can begin typing, and as I type, it'll begin to filter the list of items down now to 17 out of what was a list of 165. So this is a quick way, again, to be able to find the product it is that we want to work with. We also have the ability to use what we'll call as an advanced find, where we can categorize our products into different categories to be able to really drill down that larger catalog into something that's much more discrete, if you will. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the door, the same thing that we had configured in SyteLine. And if you remember when we did that configuration in SyteLine, it was very plain, right? It was very straightforward. It was very simple because it was for an experienced user. It was for a customer service representative who knew exactly what the product did and the attributes of the product, and there really was no question about what they needed to do in order to make the selection of those product attributes. But now remember, I'm the customer. I may not have as deep of an understanding of the product as the CSR did. So I'm going to be using, and I am using, the exact same model that we use within the context of SyteLine, but I'm going to use it with a view applied, one that's going to really help the consumer make the selections appropriately so that they actually get what they expect to, and that there's nothing lost, if you will, in the translation. So the example here is wood species. Not everyone may know the difference between the different wood species, not just in terms of the various the grain patterns and colors, but maybe some of the attributes associated with the wood type that you would select here. So to be able to provide additional information so that customers can be more informed about the choices that they make is a really strong point in terms of being able to provide your customers the tools that they need to be able to quote product effectively. So then as we look here at these various options, it does things that you would expect the configurator to do, and it does it very well in terms of filtering down the selections that are possible based on what's been selected prior to it. So with hickory, I can choose cider or natural, but if I choose maple, then I can choose sable, natural, or toffee. If it's oak, then I have cider or natural. Okay, so you again can see that the filtering capabilities are there, that there's a very visual user experience that's guiding the user through the selection of those options. Very different than what we saw from an internal order entry perspective. So we'll choose oak with a natural stain color. Here are the a couple other attributes of the configuration. Again, rather than assuming that the user knows what a square stick profile looks like, let's actually show it to them. Or selection molding. Well, what does that really mean? So as I make those selections, again, it's driving then the options that are available for the style. So as I make those selections, then this experience is going to now generate for the user automatically the 2D drawing. So the 2D drawing is representative of the options that were being selected. Perhaps they want to be able to select an arch panel top, so we'll see now the 2D automation kick in, and it automatically updates the drawing based upon the options that were being selected. Maybe they want to look at a square top with a radius panel, so we make the selection and see that update automatically. They're looking at then the door width here, and you might have noticed the differences in the terminology even to make it more descriptive to the user to understand that we're talking about door width in inches. When I was configuring in SyteLine, we just called it width because we knew with customer service it's just width. It's always in inches, of course, but the end user, your customer may not realize that. So in any event, right, they enter in the information and we see that the image starts to change. So 32 by 76. And so the door gets a little bit wider, a little bit shorter. Maybe the lock rail location is going to change. Instead of it being so high, maybe we'll move that down to be at 32. Right? So they're able to visually see the result of what it is that they are configuring. In this case here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to also include hinges on this door. And as we look at then the result of doing that, the users provided with some additional information that they can select upon. They have the image to confirm what it is that they had just configured. They can also come over and they can look at a summary of the selections that were made so that if they needed to validate the information prior to finishing configuration, they could do that. And if they needed to make a change, oh, you know what, I really didn't mean selection molding. I'll click on that. It'll bring me back here. And I really want to do the Roman ogie. Okay, so we make those selections. It's going to continue through the process to now be again at the finish date. I've made that update. If I wanted to see if there was a change to the image, I could take a look there. Indeed, it did change that image, that profile pattern changed, so I can validate that. And so, again, a very visual user experience here to allow the user to be very confident that what they've configured is really what they're going to get. So as I finish then this configuration, it's going to bring it back to the quote, and you can see it returns some additional information that's going to describe what was actually configured. So here are some of the configuration options, as well as the price and the image associated with that. So that was one way to be able to think about configuration in that very detailed configuration experience, similar to but yet very different than what was done in SyteLine. We launched into a session to be able to select options, and as a result of that, we generated a price as well as an image. Now, as maybe a more experienced user, as I begin using the system, I become more comfortable with the product line. I've also realized that not everything that I configure is very unique and detailed. I may be able to do some of these options that or complete some of these configurations through some what I would say would be standard offerings. So the manufacturer says that here are the things that might change most often. Here's a little information, additional tooltip, selecting the wood affects the stain options, but it allows the user to very quickly configure standard offerings. So it's still configurable, but yet the remaining options are going to be defaulted. So we saw additional options in detail that we don't see here, but because it's a standard offering, we're going to allow the user to be able to make those selections. Again, still very visual if they need to go ahead and do that. And we'll choose hickory here in this case, and with a natural finish. And as I add these options in, so this we say 32 by 74, I can click Add. And so as I click Add, it's going to actually do that configuration in the background, and it's going to complete and show those attributes as configured with the pricing and the image as it's been selected. And so now you can see very quickly, in this case maybe I want to do cherry. And it says, okay, well cherry took away that other option, so we're going to select now cider. And maybe this time we need to look at the arch panel top door. And we can add that in. And maybe I need another one of those, but I need a different size. I need that one to be at 32 by 82. And so I can add that in. So very quickly, in a matter of really seconds, I've added fully configured products with as configured drawings with the as configured price to the quote. So now that I have this quote, the next step might be interacting with the customer. So one of the things that we will do now is we'll take a look at the proposal document that can be generated for this quote. So here is an example of using document automation where your customer can actually configure the document the way that they want it. Here, let's add some additional marketing collateral. Maybe we want to add a cover page. Maybe we want to add an introduction letter or terms and warranty information. So what this does is it allows your customer to be able to select those things that they think are going to be most effective at selling the product to the end consumer. So as they make these selections, it's going to take all the information that's in the quote, as well as additional templates like the cover page, the introduction letter, the terms and the warranty, and additional marketing collateral in the context of the door features, to be able to then pull all that together into a very customer-tailored and professional-looking proposal document. So here we'll take a look at that, the proposals for Wilson Industries. Again, that's the customer that we selected on behalf of Coordinated Enterprises. The contact there is Mark Wilson. And here then is the introduction letter, Dear Mark Wilson, and here's the text associated with that. And this is just leveraging a Word template in the background. So there's a great deal of flexibility to take a Word template and really make it what it is that you want without any additional programming. So it's a great aspect of the document automation, personalized with your information. And then as we look at then the configurations and related to the quote that was configured, we have that information there. We have the marketing material with the door features, we have the terms and conditions, and warranty information related to the product. So this is just an example of how document automation can be used to generate a proposal. Document automation could also be used to generate an engineering submittal package. It might be hundreds of pages long where there's lots of drawings associated with it, a lot of different specifications, pulling information from different systems. A lot of different ways to use document automation. This here is just an example of generating a proposal. So say now that we've generated that proposal for the customer and the customer says, hey, that's great, I appreciate it, but I really need to get another view of this quote. I need to be able to see this quote, and I want to standardize on maple, on a natural maple finish, and where I'm selling this into, they said they just want a traditional square top, square panel door. Okay, so we could do that by going into each line, and we could change the options for each one of those to be able to provide what the customer ultimately was asking for. So we can do the square panel, square top. I can come back here, so it allows me to go in multiple ways, right? Maple, and then I want to do natural, and just confirm the selections. And so again, I can go back and forth through the process to be able to make those changes. I'll go ahead and cancel it, but that would take a long time to go through each one of those doors and have to make each of those changes independently. Not only that, I'm losing the integrity, if you will, of what I had quoted them previously. What if they change their mind? So we have an easy ability here to be able to create a new version. So let's just call this one here the original. So this is the original quote, and we'll just version that. Okay, so as we version it, we're not going to lose the quote number. We're actually going to just build on it. So here is the quote 805-2. That's for my second version, and this one here will say square panel. We'll call this one the square panel, and again, I could go through and change each one of these independently, but rather than do that, we'll go ahead and use what we call a rapid change. And really the benefit here is the ease of use and also the speed. When we can provide for a very intuitive user experience, one that allows a user to make the selections very quickly and very easily, and get that done with a high level of confidence, then that's the experience that's actually going to win business. So there's the square panel, square top. We'll say apply options, and that's going to go ahead and complete that in the background. We can come back out here. We could continue to add some additional options if we wanted to. Maybe we want to add another door here. Perhaps this one, again, we want to keep it consistent with the maple and natural, and we could add another one in. So again, that's going to just put that there in the background. Now I have really two versions of the same quote, all now updated. You can see all these are now the square panel doors. Some of them have the different dimensions associated with them, 32 by 76, 32 by 74. Okay, we can see that the lock rail location is a little bit different on line 1 versus line 2. This quote happens to be for $1,415, whereas if we were, wanted to switch back to version 1, we can take a look at that one as well. That's $1,437. Right, so we can see now how we have two versions of the same quote to be able to really satisfy the need of the customer as they go through the process of really determining what it is that they need to order. So this is, again, a great example to be able to show the flexibility as well as the ease of use and the power of really extending the configuration capabilities outward to your customers so they can really interact with their customers or just with you directly from a reordering standpoint, just to be able to get very accurate and complete configurations and pricing from you without having to call upon customer service. So all the information contained in configurator accessible through the sales portal, via a browser, is a really powerful option for your customers. So let's assume now that the customer was satisfied with the version 2 of the quote, right? They said, okay, this is the one that we need to go with. It's the maple natural finish, all square top. We'll go ahead and we'll place that order. So now what's happening is Coordinated Enterprises, right, is placing the order onto the manufacturer. So at this point, we'll place the order, and what's going to happen now is that order information from Sales Portal is going to be passed over, if you will, into SyteLine. So what we're going to take a look at here is this shows it having been completed, and that if any other versions were out there, that they'll have been closed. What we'll look at now is what does that look like in SyteLine. So let me come back out here, and we'll go back to the customer order view. And as we look over here, this is going to come in as a CS. So we have a CS10 right now. We should see a new one as I refresh the view. Let me just refresh this view here. And pull that back over. There's my CS11. And as we look at the CS11, take a look at the lines. You should see that we have the 4 lines of the configured doors. And there were 5 lines. I forgot I added the one more there at the end after I did that version. The first version had 4 lines. I added a 5th line on that second version. So there are each of my doors, and as I look at each one of those, you can see then that I'm also going to have a job associated with each one of them. So that information has come over from the sales portal into the SyteLine ERP, generating the job, and for that job, as to say, we'll take a look at the last one here. We'll look at that job information. Fully configured set of operations as well as materials associated with that. And let's just say, oh, you know what, the customer, maybe they called back in, right? And the customer said, I forgot to add hinges to that. Could you add hinges to that for me? Well, certainly. So customer service now logs in. You can see, again, a very different user experience, but still leverages the exact same model, pulls in the information that the customer had already selected, so they don't have to change anything here. That's not going to get reset, but they're going to add hinges. So we'll go ahead and we'll add hinges to that. And not only that, the customer had asked, well, could you ship those separately? Well, absolutely. Let's go ahead and we'll ship that separately here, and we'll finish that up. But they just wanted it on that one particular line. They said, hey, I needed that one to be updated so that I have a special processing for that where I'm going to place it in this particular project. So as I did that, you may notice that we now have line 6. So the configurator is able to drive additional lines being added in this context here for the hinge of a stock product. And you can see then if we went and we look back again at the job associated with this particular door, that it will also have been updated to be able to show that it's the same process, right? Because the hinge is being sold separately, that it's not going to actually add it to the bill of material here. So as we take a look at that, we'll go through here and we'll just see the different operations and materials associated with the job. So as I've done the reconfiguration in the context of SyteLine, I've been able to update the job accordingly. And if we need to look at the detail just to make sure that it's correct, we have that configuration notes associated here, and then we also have the image again to be able to validate that indeed that does actually have the hinges as we had expected it to. So that really gives, if you will, the round trip, the full exposure to product configuration management. So if we just jump back out here into our slides, and we'll get close to wrapping up, the complete solution, right? Not just product configurator integrated with ERP. Very, very important. Tremendous value there, just in being able to launch configuration from ERP, standardizing your product offerings, making sure that only valid options are being driven down into manufacturing, reducing costs significantly through eliminating rework and scrap, significantly reducing costs associated with manually having to chase down what is an acceptable combination of offerings. So great value there. Certainly extended with the automation suite, specifically with 2D automation and even 3D automation. We didn't show that today. Really, the only difference there is that instead of a 2D model, 2D sketch, it's going to generate a 3D model, and that 3D model can have a tremendous amount of intelligence in it that can drive a great deal of downstream manufacturing operations. But then if we look at the full solution in the context of extending that outward to your customers, taking that power of the configurator and providing it to your consumer, to your dealer, to your sales rep, out in the field to be able to use where they want to use it, that provides for a great opportunity to increase sales. So as we look then at the value proposition, if you will, for our customers, what do we provide? Well, we provide the ability to increase your sales. That is by far really the most important thing to remember about product configuration management, is that when you take the configurator and you extend it outward, is that you have a tremendous opportunity now to increase sales. Certainly continuing to reduce cost, and in some cases, very importantly, differentiating your brand, differentiating yourself from the competition by making your business much easier to do business with. So rather than me talk about all the things that we can do around increasing sales and reducing cost and differentiating the brand, I like to let our customers speak for us. So whether it's Gorman Rupp being able to increase sales by enabling faster product introductions, again, leveraging the power of our configuration modeling environment, one that doesn't require a programmer to write syntax, but it's visually drag and drop, simple syntax based on Excel-like expressions, to be able to really build those models quickly and take advantage of the opportunities in the marketplace. Maybe it's Seneca Data looking at reducing costs because they can update pricing very quickly and easily, through creating a very simplified structure that allows for new pricing updates to be introduced into the product very, very quickly and without error. Or maybe it's Salux, where they were able to differentiate their brand because they were able to build better relationships by really ensuring 100% order accuracy. And these are some really great statements that our customers have been able to realize through using the product configuration management suite. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Warren, and we can open it up for any questions.
Well, thank you, John. Extremely good overview and detailed presentation. So went extremely well. So, operator, if you would start our Q&A process here, and let's start opening the lines up for questions.
At this time, I would like to remind everyone, in order to ask a question, press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. Your first question. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
We'll pause for just a moment to compile the Q&A roster.
All right, very good. So, John, just a quick question here. I've heard that companies that have a friendly configurator oftentimes can see their sales increase by 15, 20%. Is that something that we've been seeing here from the folks that have adopted the PCM configurator?
I think that's something that we may see Gartner put out, and I think that's very true when we look at a configure CPQ processes, maybe what some folks think of a configure price and quote. We're actually maybe a little bit more conservative even. Say increase top line sales between 3 and 5%. But that's pretty significant, right? I mean, that's a tremendous return on investment when we look at implementing our solutions, and a lot of that again is driven, certainly through the configurator, but also through leveraging the power of that configurator outward to the customers through the sales portal.
Exactly, and definitely, this is a growth market that as people want more and more configured product from the standard, everyone wants to be unique. I think this is.
Yeah, that's right, and a lot of our, a lot of what we've seen is that, customers of configured products, if you will, they really have a need to be able to work at all hours, right? And it's very difficult to be able to provide the support that's necessary for the consumers out there to be able to provide for the product options and the pricing as they need them. So being able to provide a solution that's accessible really 24/7 and provide that level of information so that they can make the appropriate selections is what really is providing a differentiator in the marketplace in terms of doing business with customers that leverage the PCM solution.
Exactly. So kind of if you can dream it, you can build it type of thing. So
yeah, it really is.
Very good. So operator, go ahead and let's start with our first questions, please.
Thank you. Your first question comes from the line of Julie with Star Cutter Company. Your line is open.
Go ahead, Julie.
Good morning. Thank you for your presentation, John, and I would like to present the idea/question of the ability for the configurator sales portal side of it to be able to look at multi-site. If you have a customer, they don't care whether it's site A, B, or C who is manufacturing the product, but if your configurator is set up for each of the specific manufacturing sites or companies within your SyteLine, how does it work back towards the sales portal, what the customer would see?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I know that's a tremendously valuable capability that SyteLine provides with multi-site. And really what you saw within the sales portal is what we would see with multi-site, where we abstract that away from the end user. Like you said, they really don't care necessarily where it's coming from. They just need to order the product. It's the manufacturing decision of where are we going to source that from, and that is driven through the configurator. So it's really through the integration of through the development of the configuration model that can really determine what the sourcing location is for the manufacturing side of the equation. So as we look at the integration of the sales portal back into SyteLine, it is that configuration data that's going to ultimately drive that decision-making process as to where to source that material from.
Okay, I think there still may be a challenge for us because we're set up with configurator on multi-sites and multi-products. But
different configurators, you mean, or maybe different configuration models even?
I believe that would be the correct statement, yes.
Yeah, I think that's something that we could certainly look at in terms of what would be the overall strategy, if you will, of how to structure the configuration model, leveraging a model that can be used across multiple entities. And we certainly have a tremendous amount of experience where we've worked with very large companies with distributed manufacturing environments, leveraging the same configuration model, all being able to still work independently. It's very object-oriented in terms of how the models can be built, so we can provide for a great deal of flexibility in terms of accessibility to the various components that each facility may be contributing to, and then ultimately, again, hooking that up with the in the context of the sales portal integration to be able to drive that to the correct manufacturing location. Certainly something that we have experience in doing, and we look forward to having some additional conversations with you if you'd like.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Your next question comes from the line of Bob with Sens. Your line is now open.
Hello. We have configurator, and we haven't actually started using it in an older environment for a number of reasons. But what we kind of missed today was the actual options structure and building that. Especially, we do industrial electrical systems, and some of them are very customizable in terms of properties, but not necessarily visual aspects, as well as options that are included. So I'm interested in how easily it is to adapt the property options to get a very good, solid, safe setup for non-visual oriented options, and additionally, it seems is there an option to have orders not to go to plan only and to not drive a job?
Yeah.
Because we do all of our jobs directly at manufacturing at the time of manufacture. It's a one-step process that starts and finishes the job.
Yeah, you bet. A couple of really great questions here, and Warren gave me an hour, but I could spend probably a week. Right? There's a tremendous amount of value and information capability that we provide, especially in what I'm showing you right now in the context of our configuration modeling environment. And this is just, again, an example here of how you would model products and options as you had talked about here. Lots of different capabilities to go through. It is very visual. It doesn't require somebody to sit down and write lines of code. Again, I can't get into a whole lot of detail right now. Certainly be willing and love to talk to you in the future here to really give you a much deeper dive into how we use this configuration model to do exactly what you described, which is something that might not be very visual, but it's just more option intensive. A lot of great tools to be able to really drive that to a very very accurate and complete, as well as a very easy process for your users, as well as from a maintainability from the overall configuration model. And then in the context of driving the order back into SyteLine, there's a lot of options here as well. It certainly doesn't have to drive a planned order that for manufacturing. It can certainly even be integrated in with the estimates, and you have control over the status in which those orders come in, to where you might not want to drive the manufacturing piece. Absolutely, right? We just don't write the manufacturing side of the equation. It doesn't need to drive it. Or we still have that information available, but we don't generate it right away. We put it into, say, maybe an estimate first. So definitely a lot of options there. Definitely a lot of opportunity for you to really structure it the way that you want to. It's not rigid. The integration that we have isn't extremely rigid, meaning that you have certainly a lot of opportunity to really build it, or I should say customize it the way that you want to.
And it's possible to disassociate job creation from the order?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, really, that's driven through, if I just jump back in here just very quickly, we just even have a branch down here in our model that says to go generate the manufacturing. I mean, you can just disable that, and that you'll totally eliminate the generation of a job. And it's really as easy as that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Your next question comes from the line of Ashwin with BWIS. Your line is open.
Good morning.
John, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, thank you for the excellent presentation of PCM, and there are a few questions in my mind. Is what are the basic requirements for item master in the standard item master for doing this configuration, and what kind of licenses we need to apply on the server to use this product?
So the item setup is really straightforward. It's a matter of really just flagging an item as configurable. There are a couple other system parameters that need to be defined to tell SyteLine where to go launch configuration, if you will. So the setup of the configuration piece in the context of SyteLine is very straightforward. It's very, very easy to do. And from a licensing standpoint, licensing the product configuration management suite or the individual products is how it would be licensed. I'm not sure if you had another thought in terms of what you were looking for there, but it is a separate license, if you will, from the SyteLine license. So that's, I think, hopefully answering your question.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Your next question comes from the line of Jim with Thrustmaster of Texas. Your line is open.
Hey, good morning. Jim. You've made all 5 calls, I believe, correct?
Yes, I have. I've learned a lot this week. Thank you.
Thank you.
John, we currently use SolidWorks and AutoCAD in a primarily engineer-to-order manufacturing environment. And I was wondering if the product configuration management tool works along with PLM, which we're considering buying from Infor, as well as DocTrack and ShopTrack.
Okay.
And have you seen a situation where you've been able to convert a company from engineer to order to configure to order by integrating all those tools together?
That's a deep question, and I appreciate the question. The answer to the PLM piece is that is something that I think is becoming much more intriguing, because I've been hearing much more about integrating configurator within the context of PLM. It's not something we do today. but I've definitely had a lot of interest expressed in it. We've certainly considered it in the past, and it's something I'm going to be taking a closer look at as we move forward. So just know it's not there today. Certainly would be a possibility. We have a tremendous and very robust set of APIs to be able to call the configurator, and we generate data in a very normalized fashion, which could be is also very easily accessible to the host system to do with what they need to. So while we don't have it as a standard integration today, certainly as a capability, we haven't talked much about dot track or the other piece that you had mentioned, and I don't necessarily have any experience there with the configurator being leveraged in those areas, but we'd love to follow up with you to talk more about that and what the potential could be, where you could see that potentially being, where PCM could be leveraged in those areas. As regards the engineer to order, kind of converting the configurator to order, where it makes sense, I would say. We complement an engineer to order process very well. We can certainly take that process and provide a tremendous value and benefit there to allow the engagement of engineering where it's necessary in the configuration model. It's actually something that I'm working with Dyno on as a future roadmap item to make some adjustments, if you will, within the SyteLine product to really facilitate an engineer to order process much more effectively. But certainly a possibility to kind of take that, as you said, to a configure to order process. That's something that I think is really important to think about is if your engineers are always involved, and I like to say, doing non-engineer work in a way, right, having to support sales to determine whether or not these things fit together or work together, what the limitations are. If we can build that into the model and allow that to be handled automatically, then it allows engineering to then work on innovating product and bringing new products to the market that are really going to capture the attention of your customers and ultimately, drive additional sales. So great question, and certainly would love to follow up with you on those.
And does it work with SolidWorks?
Yes, indeed, and it does. Solid works for both the 2D automation and 3D automation. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Your next question comes from the line of Bill with CF Martin. Your line is open.
Good morning. I have two unrelated questions. First one is, what can you tell us about your experience with cycle time to complete an implementation? If you could give us kind of a best case, and I hate to use the word, but a worst case scenario.
Sure.
And the other question is regarding the dynamic, I'll call it a dynamic CAD library. Is it reusable from one quote to the next? Our business tends to be a high amount of quotes, very low realization, okay, maybe 200,000 quotes, maybe 1%, 5% that actually come to fruition. So if we build a huge library of quotes, are pieces of it reusable, or is it regenerated every time and we end up with a huge storage situation?
All right, okay. Well, from a cycle time, and I think I heard the key word there that helped me understand how to answer it, was related to the implementation of the PCM product. Is that what you were looking for?
Right.
Yeah. It's the great answer of it depends. But, in all seriousness, the modeling environment is really, I should say, the configuration model, the building of the configuration model is probably the most intensive part of the implementation. And it's intensive in the aspect of really an understanding of your product. So it's less about how long does it take to build the model and more about how well do you even understand your own product. As weird as that may sound, it's our experience that a lot of our customers go through a process to really rationalize their products, and they become much more knowledgeable about their products as they're implementing a configuration solution. And it's that part of the project that typically takes a bit longer than even just the actual building of the model. So to be direct with the answer, we can go all the way from what we call a train and support model that could be somewhere around, say, 20 to 30 days, where we provide for training, we provide for a workshop to understand some of the your product lines and how we might want to structure that, go through, say, a representative example of how to build that model as a starting point, and then turn it over to you to be able to then move that and carry that forward, and then just be on call, if you will, for support as necessary, all the way to a turnkey type of a solution where we're going to drive it all the way through. So, best case scenarios is certainly, it's so variable, it just depends on the product, the complexity, how much are we driving pricing and manufacturing and visualization. But, we've had customers implement, in a month for very simplistic product lines, and we've had customers take, over a year to implement multiple product lines across multiple manufacturing facilities with, various levels of complexity related to pricing and manufacturing and visualization. So it does, there's not a simple answer for you, but certainly there's a lot of different options in terms of how you'd want to provide for the project implementation. And then from a reusability standpoint, as you described, generating a lot of quotes, depending on if you were asking could we reuse those quotes so we don't have to necessarily rekey them again, absolutely there's a tremendous amount of opportunity there to copy quotes or to even export a quote and import portions of that quote. So you may have remembered that, hey, a month ago I configured these 3 products. I need to do that again. I'll take those 3 and redo them. Or maybe it's in the context of the model, whether it's the configuration model or the CAD model. Absolutely, part of the implementation is to build that in a way where it is as reusable as possible. We don't want to duplicate those things, and we shouldn't be out generating multiple models, whether they're config models or CAD models. So we'll work with you to build a model that's really, and this might sound a little counterintuitive, as dumb as possible. We don't want to put a lot of intelligence in the model. We want to make it kind of dumb so that the configurator is really where the intelligence is at, and that's what is going to drive the models.
Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
All right. So we're just getting to the top of the hour. Why don't we just go ahead and take one more question here, and then we'll close if we could.
Your next question comes from the line of Timothy with Process Tech. Your line is open.
Go ahead.
How you doing this morning?
Great.
When you're creating these items in SyteLine, you're creating a bunch of bills for it. If you go and change the bills or the routing on any of these, is there an easy way to go back and reconfigure the items without actually having to go individually reconfigure each individual item?
So that's a good question to clarify on, because when we create a configuration, as I showed today, that wasn't really generating an item, okay, in the item master that has a static bill of material. It created a job, right, a transaction that had the list of operations and parts associated to that job. There is the capability to create an IPN, and there's various ways to do that. And when the IPN is created, then to be able to generate the bill of material associated with now that standard item. The ability then to change that BOM via configuration is not currently a capability of SyteLine, but it is something that we have identified as an option or an opportunity for us to add as a roadmap item, something that we identified in a recent workshop that we had with the SyteLine team to take the integration of the PCM solution, another step forward in terms of what we already provide.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, well, folks, that brings us to a close of our great week here. And, John, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me today.
So just to do a quick wrap-up here, we will be sending out the recordings of the entire week. So for those, unlike Thrustmaster, who made the entire 5 weeks or 5 days, if you did happen to miss a day, we will be presenting the recordings for you. So with that, I thank you very much for attending. We hope that this has been a great week for you, and look forward to meeting again here. So with that, have a great day, folks. Have a great weekend, a safe weekend, and enjoy the nice fall weather that we're starting to see here. So thank you very much.